hello. It is June 4th, 2025, and it is 5:49 p.m. in the afternoon. And I is Mark Kulak, KULACZ. Broadcast. This is my little show. I do a bad job explaining it, but let's just put it this way. I worked in the tech industry for 20-something years. Data storage systems, data backup, data archival, half of it as an engineer, half of it in pre-sales, marketing, tech training, and competitive intelligence. And it was chronic health issues in the family and drug addiction over the last, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was right now, that made me more and more curious as to why these issues weren't getting attention. I started doing some sleuthing online because, after all, I was a researcher. And one thing led to the next. Trump administration, everything's getting shooken up. And I spent an increasingly quantity of my time doing online research. And then eventually I decided to do something really stupid, and that is walk away from my career at its peak and start doing a show, and realizing eventually that the internet is kind of rigged. But anyways, that's getting whiny. But that was the root of my show. I tend to cover historic issues last 20 to 100 years and up to the current day. The big stories, not necessarily the moment, but of the era. I mean, for example, the drug overdose epidemic in the United States of America, 900,000 drug opioid overdose deaths over the last 10 or 14 years, depending upon how you consider the window. Well over 500,000, close to 600,000 deaths in the last 5 years. Remember, we didn't have a baseline of 120,000. We had a baseline of 18,000 a year drug overdose deaths, which in and of itself was bad enough to make Hollywood movies about in the year 1999. So how did it get to be where it is right now and impacting mostly young people? I don't understand how any Epstein list or anything else can just trump that as a story. And it connects to many things. It connects to our law enforcement. It connects to the health departments in the United States. It connects to this coronavirus story. And there's a lot more to my program than just that, but just as a quick introduction, I guess. So to review briefly, matter of fact, you'll have to watch my last night's show, episode 1278, to get up to speed. And it all kind of started with this photograph right here. Someone who started to try to manipulate another online true American, and someone who's become a friend of mine, Jonathan J. Cooey, Ph.D. The person in the middle, Piper Stover, decided to make that one of her missions early in the pandemic. I'm not exactly sure why, although I suspect, if I just may throw something out there, okay, I suspect because the title of this show is, why does India want to get rid of the FDA in the United States of America? And I say that because we have someone from India running the Center for Biologics and Evaluations, which basically validates vaccines. The FDA deputy administrator, the main FDA administrator, is an Englishman, English-educated Egyptian, who wants to review this. The National Institutes of Health is run by an Indian-born man who wants to get rid of the FDA, and a former Indian man in the Republican Party, Vivek Ramaswamy, he wants to get rid of the FDA, and he supports these other two, and they're being interviewed on a show by an Indian man who also wants to, thinks that the FDA is in the way. And I can just go on, okay? And much of this is also supported by Raja Krishnamurthy, the Democrat Indian-born representative from Illinois, big supporter of Barack Obama in his earlier days, still a close friend of Barack Obama, now probably going to be becoming a senator for the state of Illinois. And look, this is a dicey subject because there is a racial component to it, but more so, there's a nationality component to it. The thing is that almost nobody on that list, aside from perhaps Vivek Ramaswamy, is an American-born person of Indian ancestry. They're all not born in the United States. And when you look at almost every single role of significance in the National Health Institutes right now is run by or heavily influenced by someone from one country, born from one country, you're allowed to ask questions. Look at it this way. MSNBC, the left-leaning, if you will, side of the spectrum, if they saw that every single person, every single key role in the NIH and the FDA and HHS was run by a 50-year-old long-bearded Russian guy who walks around taking shots out of a bottle of vodka, wouldn't that look a little weird? And they would be allowed to say, hey, what's going on here? Why is Russian people, even if they grew up in the United States, running all these institutes? Similarly, if people who were born in China were running all of the key positions in institutes, not to mention saying that we should get rid of the FDA, it would be legitimate criticism of how did this happen? We're not talking, one person, people from a couple different countries, maybe subject matter experts. We're talking about an almost total monopoly of individuals running the United States Health Institutes who unanimously want to get rid of the FDA. What does the FDA do? The FDA started, not as Vivek said, the FDA started regarding food safety. Food safety. Cosmetics, drugs came in after the fact. They slowly added a review to make sure that they did not kill people, and they did what they were supposed to do. And that's something that was added in a couple of phases based upon a couple individual events. The FDA also initially did not have oversight of vaccines at all until 1972. And there was a Biologics Act, I don't know the formal title of it, but until 1972, the FDA did not handle vaccines at all. Vaccines are considered a biological product. They come from animals. And for some reason, even though you inject it, the FDA was told you don't handle vaccines. The FDA was making sure people could eat and not die. They were ensuring that if the label said that something contained a certain amount of sugar in it, that, it had that amount of sugar in it. If they say bread would be good for a week, then does the bread stay good for a week? Does ibuprofen take away headaches for most people? Yes, it does. You check the boxes. The FDA's job is not to innovate. The FDA's job is to make sure that the products don't kill people and that they do what they say on the label. I'll give you another example, okay? I'll give you another way of thinking about this. And I think this is really important. I might need to make some video shorts. If you want to take me and make some video shorts out of it, that's cool. Most states have highway departments, road and highway departments, transportation departments that are responsible for making sure that cars that are on the road meet a minimum level of safety, right? Do the headlights work? Are they burning oil too much to the point where it would cause a distraction for other people? Do they have wiper blades? Are there electronics returning any codes? They'll do an annual or once a year, every other year inspection of the car. So their job is to make sure that the cars meet a certain level of safety. They also have a responsibility to make sure that the roads are safe. If there's huge potholes, they need to be fixed or at least, roped off somehow. Sometimes they have to make sure that the signs in the road are appropriate. Sometimes they need to have weigh scales, scales for cars, vehicles, trucks that have heavy loads. So to ensure that trucks that are too heavy don't go over bridges which can't handle that much weight, okay, over a certain area. They may also have the responsibility of toll collection. Why am I spending all this time talking about this? That is a regulatory agency that's responsible for the quality of the transportation, to continuously do safety inspections of bridges and everything else, to make recommendations on when things need to improve. And it's not their job to improve the technology of automobiles. It's not their job to make sure automobiles are more fuel efficient. It's not their job to oversee that there's startup companies that can make flying cars. It's not their job, okay, to do any of that. It's not their job to ensure that there's startup capital for new companies to make cars and trucks. The FDA has a job to ensure that food is safe and that products do what they say on the label. That's what the FDA's job is. It's not to make sure that gene therapy can advance. That's not the FDA's job. And if gene therapy can't advance, or DNA vaccines or whatever, because they kill people, well, we have a problem. Why should the FDA say, well, let's just validate it for a while until you guys get the kinks worked out, because we want to make sure that, you're profitable in the future. That's not the FDA's job. If a product is so unsafe that it kills people, then you know what? Maybe it shouldn't be sold. Also, the FDA is in the way of a major, obvious transition. Now, I'm speculating that it has been known for quite a while that medicine, or at least the world of vaccines and immunology and cancer treatments, is not really about getting better or therapy. It hasn't been for a long time, and it isn't going to be for a long time. It is a massive industry which is focused on finding ways to use the art of vaccination and cancer therapy, and wellness as a path to using people for the purposes of medical experimentation. That's what it's about. In World War II Germany, they could take prisoners, and they could take an extract of one person, and inject it into another person and see what happens. They could suck out marrow from a cat, and they can inject it into someone's head and see what happens. They could cut open someone's leg and stuff sand in there and then sew it up and see what happens. They could learn about how the body of a person, or a human, dehumanize it, human, works by cutting off and chopping off and sucking off pieces of these types of things in animals, and then injecting them into people and seeing what happens. And you know what? After you make an observation of what had happened, you simply burn the person, similar to how you would burn a monkey. This is the darkest secret of World War II. It wasn't just because Germans were a bunch of crazy racists that wanted their country to end and wanted to take out Jews in the process. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people were used for the purposes of medical experimentation. Those records were kept. It's why those people were hidden, those war criminals, for so many years. It's why the records were protected by the Vatican. That information has recently come out. That is a war crime of the most severe magnitude. Now, absent of the ability to round up a bunch of people that you don't like and start using them for the purposes of medical experimentation, how can we continue learning? Now, people want to be healthy and live a long time. So you need to convince the world that there's pathogens running about. And people will be healthier if they just roll up their sleeve and accept being stabbed and injected with something. We don't even know what it is. Don't even know what it is in many cases. And we need a huge computer grid right now collecting data on people and aggregating health records and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Effectively, the general population has been turned into being experimental test animals without their knowledge. And they think it's medicine. That is what has happened. That's where we're going. Now, some people actually believe, this is again speculation here, that this is necessary in the long run for the survival of the species. Some people really believe this stuff. That if we don't somehow attain enough knowledge about how the machine of life works, soon enough, we are going to succumb to an ice age, or we'll never be able to travel to another planet or something. So they really believe you do what you need to do to as many people as possible, because this is for the greater good. If there's a God, he'll understand. He would want us to do that. This is the path to Christ, they would say. This is real. This is true stuff. Anyways, the FDA is in the way of this. If you want to make personalized medicine, if you want to have different injections for different people, there's no way the FDA could ever actually facilitate that. So they are coming up with a litany of excuses to get rid of the FDA and sell it as pro-business, to sell it as having more compassion for life. They are going all the way to get rid of the FDA. And all the FDA does is run some tests, make sure a minimum quality standard is met, maybe every once in a while do a manufacturing inspection, and verifying that something does what it says on the label. That's it. However, somehow, and by the way, most people at the FDA are not rich. It's actually not a great paying agency. And they have a lot of problems with people leaving because they can't actually get enough talent sometimes. So the people that stay there, I mean, God bless them. Anyways, so the majority of the people who are on stage spearheading this are not Americans. I mean, they're Americans, but they're dual citizens. And I use the word national from another country. And I have pages and pages right now archived of the Indian government having meetings with all of these Indian-born people who are now running the health institutes of the United States of America. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is, I don't think he's functioning anymore. I really don't think he's functioning anymore. I'm not sure if it's because he was far less capable than anyone ever imagined, or if he's actually had a recent decline in mental health. He's not doing well. So effectively, all of the health institutes right now are run by people. Now, I would feel a little bit less uncomfortable if one was from China, one from France, one from Russia, one from Somalia, one from India. Even if they were all not American born, if there was at least a mix, that would still be awful. It's not like we're not Iceland in the United States, okay? We have 300 million people. You can't find anyone to fill any of those posts that was born here? You serious? But they're all from one country. Now, granted, it's now the most populous country, but it's unacceptable. Let's just say it is unacceptable. So, why do they want it? Now, is it in the nation of India's desire? I don't even have this part scripted. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm not sure. Recently, there was a big news story that broke about how the United States military, or the military-industrial complex, has actually recently encouraged India to make more weapons, maybe even steel purchases in the future, I don't know, from the United States. Well, why would India do that instead of Russia? Well, maybe the part of the trade is India can actually harvest data from the United States population. I don't know. There's some serious, big-level, sick shit going on right now, though. So, next to Piper Stover is Richard Verma. He's born in Canada, but only by the hair on his skin. Other than that, he wouldn't have been born in India. But then he came to the United States and grew up in the United States. And as my show last night reviewed, he had a role in this Cancer Research Institute, which is now actually part of the Soon Shung network, which goes all the way back to a very curious connection with September 11th, 2001. And again, why are you in this orbit here? And I suspect that he actually knows some other individuals who are key players in this whole realm of hijacking the health system and finding every excuse in the book to convince people that we just need to go over to gene therapy and use retroviruses to cure all the illnesses and DNA vaccines and so on, such as Robert Malone. That would make a lot of sense. I think Robert Malone has been an integral part about this, Dr. Robert Malone. And the more I've dug into Richard Verma, I'm just like, I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm a little bit low on energy right now. I had to do so much running around today. We're having car problems. But this is, just to get things started, this is a 2008 document called World at Risk, the report of the Commission on the Prevention of Weapons of Mass Destruction, Proliferation, and Terrorism. It was published in December of 2008. The chairman is Bob Graham, vice president Jim Talent, and the co-authors are Graham Allison, Robin Cleveland, Stephen Rademacher, Tim Romer, Wendy Sherman, Henry Sokolsky, and Richard Verma. So somehow this, professor, lawyer, who, not born in the United States, in Johnstown, somehow not only it was part of saving this microscopic-sized institute, which is the only center of excellence for the United States military, Walter Reed Hospital, but then he's a co-author on weapons of mass destruction and biological terrorism reports? How does this happen? And then he's interviewing Piper Stover on December 2nd, 2019, as the pandemic is starting to happen. And then she goes on having to control Jonathan Cooey. This is from the Johnstown Somerset. Johnstown gave former India ambassador loyalty, patriotism, and toughness. Read this. This is hilarious. The former United States ambassador to India, Richard Verma, again, this is 2017. He was the ambassador to India for 3 years under the Obama administration. And I found his update videos. He lived in India for 3 years as the U.S. ambassador. That's a pretty nice deal. He used to do these monthly video updates. It's amazing. He's worked with Modi. He's worked with everyone. Last year, he became the person appointed by Biden to head the economic recovery of Ukraine. This guy, who's interviewing and I think friends with Piper Stover. What the hell? Verma says he learned loyalty, patriotism, and toughness while growing up in Johnstown. If you claim to be an American, and if you're willing to turn the other way about the drug epidemic in the United States of America, you are a traitor. And you should be ejected from the country immediately. You're not a patriot. He said, the journey that led me there started right here. Verma was chosen as ambassador to India by President Barack Obama in 2014. He is the first person of Indian descent to hold the position. On Saturday, Verma will be one of 9 veterans inducted to the Cambria County Military Hall of Fame. Verma says Johnstown neighbors instilled patriotism, which led to him serving in the Air Force. By the way, he served in the Air Force by being a lawyer. It makes it sound like he was an Air Force pilot, like he was on Top Gun, in the seat behind Tom Cruise. He was a lawyer in the Air Force. He wasn't in the line of fire. He also learned teamwork from playing hockey and baseball on local teams. I love this part here. The affinity for local teams in Pennsylvania, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Penguins, was ingrained in him so much that he considered asking the Dalai Lama to turn on the Super Bowl on his TV on the day he met the famous religious leader in India. Hey, Dalai Lama, you mind if I check on the score? Hey, Dalai Lama, you mind if I turn on the NCAA playoffs? I need to update my brackets. I'm just so American. I keep a couple of hot dogs in my pocket every time I miss the taste of home. Here, Dalai Lama, have a Penguins jersey. This is unbelievable. But most importantly, Pennsylvania hometown taught him hard work, play by the rules, and give back to the community. I got to live it thanks to all of you. I don't know how to say it. It's sick. It's very upsetting. The videos I have are amazing. The, being at this, pro-India movie events. He's at these Hollywood events where the focus is on promoting and supporting India. It's like, if you love India, move to India. It's a great country, I'm sure. I don't understand this. Why do you stay in the United States if your job is to make sure India is successful? Just leave. If I woke up in the morning and my only focus was, a strong economy in El Salvador, at some point it would be weird if I never went there and every day broadcasted about how awful America was. That wouldn't make any sense. Just go to where you want to be. Anyways, his whole family history is crazy. I'll go over that at some point. Let's just watch some of the videos that we have. Oh, that music. I can't stand that. That soulless music. This is September 16th, 2015.
Video series. August not only brought monsoon rains to Delhi, but a flood of visitors from Washington, D.C., and a very active series of engagements across India. We welcomed Centers for Disease Control Director Thomas Frieden to engage with the Indian government on global health security and gave a public talk on his experience with the Ebola epidemic and what it taught us about being better prepared for infectious disease threats. Army Secretary John McHugh, who met with the Indian Army Chief to discuss our military-to-military engagement program and explored new ideas on how our two armies can work together in the fields of technology and training. And Acting USAID Administrator Alfonso Lenhart, who attended the Global Call to Action Summit. I commend the government of India for hosting the Call to Action Summit this year with 24 countries.
Cooperation between the United States military and the Indian military. That's something you don't get. It's interesting. Now, I'm as pro-U.S. military as I am, okay, I don't understand all of this, let's just team up with another country. Like, why? Why don't we just focus on keeping the United States safe? And it's got plenty of problems right now. Talking to someone who, his adult son is no longer here in the world. We got more than enough problems here. Why can't we just focus on the problems we have here? I don't want combative relationships with anyone, if it's for no reason. But, this whole, why unification, bonding. Everyone's complaining about NATO. NATO is okay. There's more people in India than there are NATO. And there's going to be more money in India than there is NATO soon, too. And this is the unification, this combination, this collaboration of these armies and military technology. And not to mention, let's start off by talking about Tom Frieden. Did Tom Frieden used to work with Margaret Hamburg at something? I don't know. I get it all mixed up after a while. On Ebola. What a kickoff. What a kickoff that is. That's right. This is the friend of Piper Stover who's interviewing her on December 2nd, 2019.
Participating. This is a clear indicator of the Prime Minister's commitment to ending maternal and child deaths, not only in India, but to share India's experience with the world. While at the summit, I was pleased to announce the launch of a new $5 million initiative by USAID called Global Linkages that will serve as a sharing, learning, and partnership platform on maternal and child practices, policies, and innovations. I also made my first trip to Lucknow, where I met with the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh and a number of other state and city leaders, spoke with India's leading Hindi language daily, Dainik Jagran, and met with students. Next, I traveled back to Tamil Nadu to speak at the Defense Services Staff College in Wellington and met with business leaders in Coimbatore and visited the Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. Back in Delhi, I delivered a speech at the prominent think tank ORF on defending our common spaces, underlining a broad agenda for U.S.-India security cooperation. I talked to members of the Gymkhana Club.
This is the person, I just have to keep reminding you, that provided some sort of legal oversight and funding to make sure that the only U.S. Army Walter Reed Center of Excellence in Windber, Pennsylvania, was able to operate. The same center that's currently the Chan Soon Shung Center, the same center whose IT was set up by Robert Malone in the year 2000 and 2001, the same center that was also originally with the John and Joan Joyce Merthyr Breast Cancer Research Center, the same center that was working on those anti-cancer peptide-based vaccines, the same center that's only, 10 or 14-minute drive from where Flight 93 definitely did not crash. And he's friends with Piper Stover. Can you see where this is all going? I mean, when you're an ambassador, it's not like, you're just the receptionist for calls from India, from the Indian president. You become the face of the United States. And that means that this other entire cadre of Indian-born people that right now run all of our health institutes effectively have also worked with him. Why does India and Indian-born people want the FDA dead? As a Native American, someone who has First Nation ancestry, not a ton, but definitely some, and the Schaghticoke in particular, and a person whose ancestry goes back before the United States was ever invented and has had family for generations and generations serve in the military, I think I should have a little bit of a say, okay? A little bit of a say. I don't understand this, hey, I just moved into the U.S., I got a degree, I pay taxes for 2 years, I have just as much of a say as anyone bullshit. I have a little bit of a say. Unfortunately, the people that died in the drug epidemic recently, those people who whose data that they used to suggest it was a deadly novel virus because life expectancy went down, they don't have a say anymore. Isn't that interesting? Let's come into a country, let's turn the other way as young people are murdered, okay, with probably intentionally, lethally laced drugs on the streets, and then let's never talk about them again. Let's only be worried about voting rights for people who came in the United States undocumented. Let's not even consider the impact of dead Americans who can't vote anymore. And my say right now, and I think also what should represent the say of the many who have died recently, is we should keep the FDA. And we should be extremely skeptical of new medications and vaccines, which are potentially so carcinogenic that they used an Internet 2 high-speed data pipe between Walter Reed Army Hospital and this little tiny cancer research center in Windber right next to Johnstown, Pennsylvania in 2000-2001 to track cancer in the U.S. military. Should the U.S. military be used for an experimental DNA anthrax vaccine from Vical Corporation? All things that almost no other citizen journalist will touch with a 1,000,000-foot pole. They won't touch it. They won't even mention it. I think the FDA should stay. Like everything else, it needs work, like everything. If it was perfect, it could still be improved. But first, be honest about its mission. The FDA's job isn't to make things better. It's just to make sure that things do what they say they do and they don't kill people accidentally. That's it. Even if the FDA was converted into an agency that did nothing but, hand out loans so other companies can invent things, you would still need presumably an agency to ensure that things do what they are supposed to do, right? Make a different agency. Oh, that's right. The NIH is already responsible for giving out grant money to help companies. As a matter of fact, almost all the technology for Moderna came out of the United States government with billions or trillions of dollars of research over decades. Don't tell me the FDA needs to do something else and needs to stop evaluating things.
On U.S.-India people-to-people ties.
Oh, and that's right. All of the evidence that we had a deadly novel virus out of China, that it came out of a cave, that there were people in China who were lying. They found documents, lying around that were in Mandarin, and Indian people who could speak Mandarin happened to find them at the bus terminal or whatever. It all came out of India. Indian intelligence source documents almost pushed the United States into a hot war with China. Yet, Indian-born people are now running the anti-Chinese Communist Party subcommittee in the United States government and are now running all of the health institutes, which are turning the other way and saying that the very vaccines, which were rolled out under the belief that we had a deadly novel virus, we should just accept that they worked and never evaluate the underlying cause of excess deaths. Keeping in mind that the emergency use authorization for these things happened because of lies about a deadly novel virus, in part coming out of India.
And conducted my first virtual Q&A on Periscope at the Twitter offices in Gurgaon.
The U.S. and India coming together can help provide stability and help defend the world order that we have come to rely on, that peaceful, democratic.
The United States and India coming together can help defend the world order. The United States and India coming together can help defend the world order. This is India fighting to unify with the United States for the world order and competing against Russia and China. Now, look, every country is allowed to make a good deal. Now, that's not the problem. The problem, in particular with me and everything that falls out from after it is you're in the United States, other people from India and the United States, and you're turning the other way as we had 1 million drug overdose deaths. Are you serious? And you're using that data for something else? And you won't even allow those people to get any recognition that happened? That means that you're now complicit in murder. This is not a good deal for the United States as far as I can tell so far. Unless someone can tell me otherwise. I guess 1 million people, it was worth losing a child. Fuck it. Excuse me. Anyways, this is serious stuff. Oh, by the way, his family includes Armenians, or people that were married to Armenians. And that makes a lot of sense because the founder of Moderna, Naubar Afeyan, is Armenian and the main financial supporter of this renewal of the nation of Armenia. All of this Armenian independence, he provides tons of money to them. Tons of Moderna money has found its way into Armenia. And so support of Armenia is also something that India is a big fan of. And I think Britain as well. Isn't this all curious? Isn't it all curious that the heroes of the health freedom movement are white people from England and South Africa and Indian people from India? Not white people from the United States, not people of Indian ancestry in the United States. Aside from Robert Malone or Jill Glasspool Malone, but she's barely first-generation American. See, isn't this a little bit of a problem? You don't see someone such as myself at that table. Screw that guy Kulak. Hell with him. There are a lot of these videos, hundreds. I just bumped into them like an hour and a half ago. It's 45 minutes in. I can't even do comments. I'm very tired. I have to go have some dinner. I might stream again, but if I do, it'll be much later tonight. I apologize for mostly just being output, and not interactive. You know what it is? It's just so much to do. When I made less progress on research, I felt so much more like relaxed in a way to just continue to, let's just talk about this more and now it's just I feel as though I'm in the middle of this torrential downpour. And the research right now is so hot. We have hit the jackpot. And quarters and dollars are just spewing out of the slot machine right now. And every time I fill up a bucket, and bring it out to the car, I come back and more quarters have fallen out. They're being taken by other people, but I'm okay with it because I can't even collect it all. The jackpot is so big. All right. Hope you guys understand. All right. I'll be back later, I think. By the way, this channel, if you want to start going through some of these yourself, and this is the United States Ambassador Richard Verma's blog. This is on the U.S. Embassy, India. I may just download the whole channel because I won't have enough time. They may take some of this stuff off the line now that we can see it. All right. Take care. Love you.